to go ahead and start with introducing the investor panel. And after the investor panel, I'm going to introduce Jasmine. She will introduce the investor panel. After the investor panel, I'm going to bring up Olive Lynch, who was the last Sharkette Tank winner. Yes, at the conference in the afternoon, we have a Sharkette Tank, similar to the television show, The Shark Tank. 5 women businesses get selected, and they get to go into that tank. And they're pitching from anywhere between 12 to 20 investors. And it's really exciting. The opportunity for the women is unbelievable. And so Olive will talk a little bit about that. But first, I want to introduce Jasmine. Jasmine Cordero is, I met Jasmine through the entrepreneurial program here at Rutgers University. She is the managing director of CUEED. All these acronyms. Great resource for entrepreneurs focusing on urban areas and urban development by creating jobs really through entrepreneurship. That's the big focus. Jasmine is a huge resource. We have other resources here as well. We have Eric Peter with UCEDC, another great organization that has helped a lot of women that I know, including Olive, in getting her business a solid foundation. That's key. You need a solid foundation. Okay. So anyway, Jasmine, I'm going to turn this over to you, and she'll go down the line on the investor panel, and we'll get going. Okay. And thank you for coming.
I just want to tell you briefly about my center. It's a mouthful, so it's the Center for Urban Entrepreneurship and Economic Development, and we're here at the Rutgers Business School. And what we do, we're three-pronged. We do research and entrepreneurship. We have a renowned faculty and business strategy. We also have educational programs for our students, minors, PhDs, in entrepreneurship, and then we have economic development initiatives, which the program that Melissa is part of, the Entrepreneurship Pioneers Initiative. It's a program to help establish businesses to help you create a plan to grow your business within the next 3 years. How do we do that? We provide you with training, counseling opportunities, financial guidance, and networking opportunities. So what do you need to grow your business? You need financing. So today here, you're going to hear some investors tell you about financing. So let me introduce you. I'm going to briefly tell you about them and then let them tell you a little bit more about what they do. They're a phenomenal group. We'll start with Mario Casabona. He is an entrepreneur and active angel investor. He's the founder and CEO of Tech Launch, a New Jersey accelerator program. He's also the founder of Casabona Ventures, and he is also the chairman of Jumpstart New Jersey. We also have Liz Zagetti on the panel, and she's a partner with Fox Rothschild, which focuses her practice on a wide variety of corporate work. She's also the managing director and co-founder of Delaware Crossing Investor Group, an angel investor network headquartered in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. We also of Rosetta Technology Group, a multi-million-dollar business consulting firm, and he is also co-founder of giftcertificates.com. So let's start. How many of you do not know what an angel investor is? Don't be shy. How many of you do not know the process of getting funding from angel investors? Great. So Mario, we'll start with Mario, who will tell you a little bit more about the differences of angel investors and what does that process entail.
Can I?
Sure.
Okay. Or I'll just. Can everybody hear me?
Well, because of time, I'll introduce Olive at the end of the panel. Sorry.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Do I need this? Okay. Do you mind?
You talk with your hands, is that what you want?
Yeah, and I do a lot of that too. So, if I may, let's see. The next slide. Oh yeah, that's me. Okay, let me figure this out. Yes, it is. Main thing that's important. So, before I start, what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about who I am and what's important about me, if you will, okay? The things that are really important on this chart is that I've got a technical background, so I'm an engineer, that's number one. Number two, I sold my company to Honeywell in 2004. Okay, that was my successful exit. Number three is that I'm also the founder and CEO of TechLaunch, the accelerator, technology accelerator. And my wife refers to herself as the TechLaunch widow. Okay, that's my new start, okay? And then the other thing that's important is that I'm also Jumpstart, chairman of Network, and also very active angel investor and business advisor, okay? So when I was asked to put this presentation together, or whatever we were going to do, I put it together in 10 minutes, about 11 o'clock, early, about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. And the question is, what do I really talk about? And before I do that, I want to tell you that I'm a very active angel investor, and those are my portfolio companies, okay? In some cases, I have 100% ownership. In some cases, I have 0.5% ownership. But still, I refer to them as my companies, my portfolio companies, okay? So what I'd like to do is talk about the type of funding that's available and where and when does it apply to you, okay? So for instance, what on the top here is seed stage type of investor, early stage investor, growth, maturity, and reinvention, okay? So a seed stage correlates with developing a creative idea. So you have an idea, it's on the back of a napkin, and you want to get some funding, it's considered seed stage, okay? Then earlier stage, you've already sort of proven your product, you've got a little demonstration, and it's still early stage, okay? And you think you're going to go into VCs at that point, but no VC is going to talk to you because you probably don't have revenue at that point. So it's early and it's product shipment. Then in the growth phase is where you expand distribution channels. In other words, you demonstrated your product, you've got some angel investors. Now you need to start growing your business. And one of the ways you start growing your business is you start finding channel partners or distribution centers, ways of getting your product out there, whether it's hardware or software. Then after you grow, you sort of reach a level where you mature in your business. You're doing pretty good revenue, assuming you're all successful. You're doing generating revenue, there's some profitability, and you sort of matured, but at that point is where you get stuck. Because you say, all right, now what do I do to even grow further? So then at that point, you really have to reinvent yourself. So if, in this case here, this chart, the red chart, shows that you start as a seedling, you end up being a tree of some kind, and what do? You just sell trees? No. You have to start taking those trees and turning them into chairs, log homes, something else. But that business is still based on your core competency. So you're not going to get into the ice cream manufacturing business. You're not going to get into the telecommunications business, because that's a whole other industry. You have no idea of how to play in that industry. But if you go from trees to making chairs, it's a relatively easy transition. So now you see a company starts seeking new opportunities at the reinvention point. Now, what about risk? Okay, and risk has to do with what's your probability of success. You're going to raise some money. You have to let people know how smart you are, how much you understand the marketplace, and how you're going to be able to de-risk this opportunity, okay? But the reality is that when you're in the seed stage, your risk is very high. And as you progress through the different levels or segments, growth, maturity, reinvention, you're actually de-risking. So if you're surviving these various stages, you're actually lowering the risk. And that's why nowadays, VCs are more into the later stage because they don't want to take all the risk. And that's where the angels come in. So if you start looking, then you start thinking about, well, where you hear all these terms of friends and family, you hear the term angel investor, you hear the term VC, various levels of VC commitments. So where does it all fit in? Well, the reality is in the seed stage, it's primarily friends and family. And why? because they love you. It's the highest risk. Nobody else in the world believes in you except for your friends and family. That's just the reality of life. The other thing is you can also go for grants, right? So if you have SBIRs, the SBA sort of believes in you, but they know they're going to lose all the money. So it's just part of life. It's high risk, friends and family, and it's very much an emotional sort of investment, okay? And I look at that period, this seed period of friends and family, of about 6 months to about 18 months. That's the time period to actually get the money and then actually do some kind of a prototype with that money, if you get that far, or even just do a business plan. So then next stage is angel financing, okay? That's where you've actually demonstrated some kind of product, you have some kind of a business plan, and now you go into more of the professional investors. Those are angel investors, okay? Those are the ones that really don't love you, but they like your idea. They like your plan. They like the management team. They like the product. They like the space, okay? So when you go for angel investors, you have to find the angel investor that's familiar with your technology and space, okay? Then the next type of financing is venture capital, okay? Now you see that some of these things are overlapping, okay? And the reason they're overlapping is friends and family goes into angel financing, but most importantly here is angel financing nowadays, over the past year and in the future, it's going into more where the VCs would have normally gone to. And you'll hear the term of a super angel. So typically 4 years ago, 5 years ago, an angel would be $25,000, $50,000 investment, an individual investment. Now it's group of angels, so you'll be able to raise $300,000, $500,000. Or you have specific angels that will put in $1 to $2 million. So those are more of the super angels, okay? And again, venture capital financing, that's moving to the right. They don't want to take the risk. They'll rather have the angel investors take the risk. Now, hold on. Okay, here, Tech Launch. What's that? It's the new startup. It's New Jersey Economic Development Authority co-invested with Tech Launch, with me, to actually create a technology accelerator. And the idea of the technology accelerator, from my point of view, is to shorten that friends and family cycle from 9, 6, 12, 18 months to about 12 weeks. Okay, so it's a business boot camp. We provide seed capital, we provide co-working space, we provide mentors, and what else? And access to investors. Okay. What else? Is there any questions on this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, two things. I'm assuming that by virtue of the name, that's only in the technology space.
Yes. Yes.
And then I decided that maybe we should go back to the definition of angel investor.
Yes.
Okay, what exactly in your mind is the definition of angel
Maybe not. But I will. What's the difference of an angel investor? There are angel investors that'll work on the retail side, okay? So that's a high net worth individual, qualified investor, that is willing to, that likes your idea and is willing to invest in you and in your idea and in your space, in your industry. So an angel investor is not necessarily technology only. I don't know if you guys want to address that also. Yeah.
I think one of the better ways to look at angel investing and venture funding, and to Mario's point, I think in the last few years they've crossed over quite a bit because angels now travel in packs. But I think the best way to look at it, and this is how I look at it, is an angel investor, you're dealing with a group of investors or an individual that's essentially handling their money. So it's a person, accredited investor, I think it's $3 million, whatever it is, you have to have enough money to be able to be legally allowed to invest in other people's companies. A venture is usually a fund. So it's one or two people that manage a large pool of money that they've taken from hundreds of people, perhaps other angels, and they stick it in the fund, and then they go out and make decisions for that fund. So sometimes a little less personal. The other thing to consider is that most funds, because they're taking on sort of investors, have rules. Whereas an angel, like I have a preference to where I invest, but if I like you, I can still cut a check. A fund has very specific rules. It says only invest in women-owned businesses, only invest in technology companies, and then only invest in technology companies in the health space that's making a product that's for this size market. So when you pitch a venture company or a venture fund, if you're pitching a fund that has nothing to do with your company, it won't even matter. An angel might listen anyway, even if it's not in their sweet spot, because, well, I kind of like the idea. I think, so maybe the best way to look at it is, personal money versus managing a fund, I think. I don't know.
That's a pretty
And
good distinction.
if I may, I'd like to address also from the woman entrepreneurial perspective, and this is where On the Ventures is filling this void, and Mario, your graph is really indicative of what happens with women-owned firms. It helps explain it. Because usually we're starting as our seed, the seedling, the little seed, with lower capital, and we're not necessarily reaching out to our family and friends for capital funding to even just get started, all right? Then now right away we're behind the 8 ball. Then typically if you're looking statistically, women will be using our credit cards, we're using our 401ks to fund our ventures. We get up into the early stages and we end up running out of money basically. So then we lack going into the growth mode of the financing, which as we all know, you need financing. It's important, it's an important component of financing. And what Christian's alluding to is through Own It Ventures, I mean, we're providing a vehicle for women to be able to reach investors, which if you're looking on women-owned firms, we're on the low end, like less than 1% of women-owned firms are getting these capital funding. Now, most investors operate in that tech world. This is my question, I'm getting to it. What's been a challenge for me is finding investors that are open to business models that are not necessarily in the sweet spot. So can you address from the perspective of how do you find an investor that fits in your sweet spot?
Let's start at the accelerator, way at the beginning, at the accelerator point, okay? There are other accelerators, DreamIt, for instance, that's out of Philadelphia. They actually, if they take in a certain amount of companies, they've allocated, I think, 30% or 25%, they're going to be either woman or minority type of businesses, okay? So there's actually a concerted effort to do that even on the early stage.
Okay.
If you look on the angel side, there's Golden Seeds in Manhattan, okay? That's predominantly men and women, but they predominantly, I think they only invest in women-owned businesses.
Right.
Excuse me. It's all
It could
women.
be
Men are
investors.
investors.
But the company needs to be owned by.
Right, it has to be a woman-owned business, right? But they'll take the money from anybody, but they're only going to put it into the female side.
And that's a fund.
That's a fund,
Right.
right? No, actually, they'll do individuals too.
Yeah, but they do have a fund that.
Yep, it's primarily the fund.
That has rules.
It's interesting. I'm blind to male, female.
Right.
I'm just blind. I don't see. In fact, I think women have an advantage over men. Okay, and that advantage is that you're focused. You don't get distracted as much as men do. Okay, it's amazing. I saw this in college. I saw this in business. I've seen it in my personal life. That women have a tendency of being focused. When they make up their minds they're going to do something, they make it happen. Okay. The problem is, and this is whether it's men or women, is that we get distractions. Okay. And men maybe get less distractions, and maybe women get more distractions. Okay. And that's life. That's part of life. Okay. So if you really want to be an entrepreneur, okay, like men, you have to make some sacrifices. It's part of life. You have to make decisions and choices. Okay. And that's what entrepreneurship is all about: is focus, making choices, and just doing what you think is best. So, this distinction of men and women, I just don't see it. Okay. I mean, it's obvious.
Right.
It is very obvious. It's very obvious, okay? But personally, I don't, you know, it's not a distinction for me. But there are organizations that are out there that are focused on women-owned businesses, okay?
Well, and I will say, from the Own Adventures perspective in meeting investors, they may operate in the tech-based businesses, but they're open to any business opportunity. And like you said, I mean, most of them are men that I've met, and most of them are, you know, they're successful entrepreneurs. But where I see what's exciting is that, and this is part of the mission of Own Adventures, there are angels that are willing, they don't care if you're male-owned or women-owned, as long as you have a good opportunity. And part of what this is about is helping to educate women. When you have that opportunity to pitch to an investor, you need to be ready, which is what you were addressing. You know, there's certain things you have to be ready to talk about.
I would rather invest in a female than a male executive any day, by the way. I would rather hire a female than a male any day. Just from experience. That's just, you know, again, more focused, more committed. Okay. But for instance, on the tech launch, the accelerator, we have 10 teams, 25 founders total. Okay, only one woman. Okay, but I had to. It came out that way because it was metrics and analytics, and that's the way it came out. Okay. By the way, we have a 14-year-old also, who's part of the accelerator.